In order to assess the phenomena of sexting and its proposed effect on the teenage population, it is vital that the broader context of which young people reside be considered. In accordance with Albury, sexting is often defined as the production and distribution of naked or semi-naked photographs via mobile phones or social media. Shelfin argues that actions of sexting are influenced by four intersecting subcultures: media culture, techno-culture, intense visual culture, and adolescent culture. It is apparent that as these cultures develop and progress into a communication framework, social constructs transform as they begin to facilitate and introduce new boundaries. In making this concept more clear, it is relevant to draw upon my previous discussion of Freud's psychoanalysis of the id, the ego, and the superego. This illustrates that the subcultures are primarily attached to the superego, the elements of one's conscious making moral judgments to ascertain the acceptability of the ego in expressing the desires of the id. As the id expresses the want and the ego the reality, the superego incorporates the values and morals of society, subduing impulses and striving for the ideal self, the perfect self that is socially acceptable. As these subcultures grow and evolve, so do the parameters in which superego operates. For example, as social environments surrounding the individual change through the influences of external forces such as a subculture, the superego acts accordingly to conform. It is here we understand the conscious act of teenagers through their participation of sexting. It is here we understand the relevance of context in generating the scope of such a phenomena. If the current media culture acts to multiply sexually explicit imagery across all media platforms, then the superego is less inclined from restricting the ego to do so as well. As Shelfin says, the subcultures influence superego to sex. Media culture increases public and private camera surveillance by multiplying explicit imagery across all media platforms and by transforming media consumer to become the media producer. Technoculture influenced by providing an environment driven by technology. Camera phones are embedded in everyday technology and are used to constitute identity. Visual culture is more focused on material superficiality, so how we look, how we dress, and how we present ourselves to the public. And then we have this adolescent culture, which is influenced through our human development, through our sexual awakening, our curiosity, our rebelliousness, our competitiveness, our identity seeking, and also pushing the normative boundaries, more so living in the now and not thinking about future consequences. Further to this concept is Hasselhoff's argument of rethinking social media and sexuality in relation to sexting as media production. So predominantly in media coverage, legal discussion, academic research and policy development has publicised sexting for its potential to increase risk factors for criminalisation and exploitation. Such moral panic has created an environment in which young people are perceived to be encompassing a technological, sexual and moral crisis. Although it is undeniable that sexting can pose problematic concerns around online predators and victimization, is it really accurate to place such negative connotations after consideration of the broader context? I don't really think so. It is apparent that our superego in which our moral judgments are formulated is not static conscience. Therefore, it can be said that during this time of rapid technological change, that the superego is merely adapting to support a revolution that facilitates a new culture of media, technology, visual and adolescent constructs. In effect, allowing our ego to convey more progressive moral boundaries that disassociate from the social acceptabilities that controlled ego in the past. Transforming sexting from a negative phenomena into a more positive platform, Hasselhoff confirms affirmative discourses that do discuss and exist to support the use of sexting in enhancing communication and self-expression, especially with regards to marginalised groups. This does not suggest that sexting should be encouraged or dismissed as a part of growing up. However, there is purpose to promote our need to be more conscious of the current social media environment. This understanding will allow educators, researchers and policymakers alike to respond to practice more effectively.